The catgirls gathered around the human, their bodies covered in blood and dust. Kayla pressed her forehead against his, whispering, "You are mad, human, but you are ours." Lyra clung to his arm, tears streaming. "You did not let them eat. US, you gave us more than freedom. You gave us a fight." Syrah's weak voice shook, but her smile was proud. "We stood, and we did not fall." The human collapsed into their arms, his blade slipping from his hands, but his faint smile remained. The last stand was not only survival, it was the birth of something greater. And in the silence after battle, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The canyon was quiet at last. The fires of battle had burned out, and only smoke and dust lingered in the cold air. The human lay against the rocks, his body broken, but his spirit unyielding around him. The three catgirls stood guard, their claws still sharp, their eyes burning with pride. For the first time in years, they were not prey. They were survivors, warriors reborn. Lyra wiped blood from her face, her golden eyes fixed on the human. "You must not die now," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You gave us freedom. You gave us hope. Do not leave us alone again." Ska pressed cloth tighter to his wounds, her thin hands shaking. She had no training in healing, but she would not stop trying. Her voice was soft but fierce. "You carried us when we were weak. Now we will carry you." Kayla stood tall at the canyon's edge, her fur matted, her scarred leg trembling. She had once spoken only of fear and anger. Now her voice was steady, her eyes locked on the horizon. "They will come again," she said. "But this time, we will not run. We will not hide. This time, we will fight." The human opened his eyes, weak but filled with fire. "You are not slaves," he whispered, his breath heavy. "You are not meat. You are warriors. Never forget that." His words struck deep into their hearts. For so long they had believed the lies of the market, but in this moment, with his blood staining the earth, they believed something new. The night stretched long, but no more hunters came. Fear had spread through them. The death of their leader had broken their will, and in the ruins of the canyon, a new legend was born. Whispers traveled fast, in Orith, by dawn. The story was already being told. A human had fought the hunters. A human had stood with alien catgirls. Together, they had killed the unkillable and defied the market masters. The markets laughed at first. They called it lies. They called it madness. But the hunters did not return, and the fear in their silence spoke louder than any denial. Soon, slaves in cages whispered of the human who fought. Soon, merchants whispered of credits lost and hunters slain, and soon, masters began to fear what they could not control. In the wastelands, the humans' wounds slowly healed. Day by day, the catgirls grew stronger. Lyra, once shy and trembling, learned to track and scout across the sands. Her golden eyes grew sharp. Her voice no longer whispered, but commanded. Syrah, once weak and frail, forced her body to recover. She learned to tend wounds, to fight with staff and blade. Her thin arms grew steady, her heart unshakable. Kayla, the scarred fighter, trained her sisters every dawn. She sharpened their claws, taught them to strike without fear, and in time, she even smiled. Though only for them, the human guided them. Though his body carried scars deeper than before, he was no master, no owner. He was their leader, and more, he was proof that mercy could be stronger than cruelty. That one spark could light a fire, and the fire was spreading. One night, as they sat around a new fire in the ruins of another broken outpost, Lyra looked at him and asked, "What now? Do we keep running forever?" The human shook his head slowly. "No, we do not run. We gather, we build, we fight." His eyes turned to the stars above. "There are others like you, locked in cages, waiting for hope. We will find them, free. Them, and together we will rise. The words settled heavy in the night air. For the first time, the cat girls saw not just survival, they saw a future. Kayla bared her teeth in a fierce grin, then let the galaxy tremble. If one human and 3 broken girls could kill hunters, imagine what many will do. Sierra nodded. Her weak body now steady, her voice calm. They will call us rebels. They will call us monsters, but we will be free. Lyra leaned against the human's shoulder, her golden eyes glowing in the firelight. You gave us life when no one else would. We will give you an army, and so, in the wastelands of Orith, something new began. Not a market, not a chain, not a cage, but a rebellion. A rebellion born not from power or wealth, but from the last credits of a poor human. And the courage of 3 enslaved girls who refused to die. The galaxy above remained. Vast, cruel, and full of enemies. But beneath the stars, a new story had started. 1 human, 3 cat girls, and a fight that would one day shake empires. The market masters laughed at first, but deep in their hearts, they began to fear. For whispers were turning into fire, and fire was something no chain could hold. The human closed his eyes by the fire. The cat girls closed beside him, his body scarred, his strength fading. But his spirit blazing brighter than ever, he had bought hope with his last credits, and now that hope had grown, it was no longer his alone. It belonged to all of them, and soon, it would belong to the galaxy. The planet was called Veralis 9, but most people just called it the Meat Moon. It wasn't a real moon, not anymore. It had been hollowed out and turned into a massive black market. Here, everything had a price: metal, weapons, drugs, even living beings. The air smelled like oil and blood. Screams echoed between metal walls. Creatures from 100 alien races walked through the red-lit corridors. Some wore armor, others wore chains. Some were hunters, others were prey. Jox Kellen walked quietly through the crowd. He wore a long coat, torn at the edges. His boots were old, his face tired. But his eyes, they were sharp, cold, and searching. He had only 50 credits left in his account. Not enough to fix his ship. Not enough to buy fuel. But today, he wasn't looking for food or parts. He was looking for something else. Something even he didn't understand. He passed by cages of alien birds. Jars full of strange organs. A booth where a robot sold cloned fingers. Then he heard a voice, low and greasy, fresh stock. Just arrived, it said, last of there. Kind real exotic meat. Jox turned. It was a large cage, covered with a dark cloth. A vendor, fat and slimy, pulled back the cover with a grin. Inside were 2 figures, small, shaking, and silent. They were cat girls, not like the fantasy drawings on Earth. These were real alien beings, fur-covered ears, tails, glowing eyes, half human, half feline. One was silver-haired with green eyes. The other dark-furred with purple eyes. They were chained together. Their arms bruised, their lips cracked, but their eyes, they were full of fire. Not fear. Jox felt something strange in his chest. Not pity, not desire, just a deep pull, like they didn't belong in that cage, like they were something more. The vendor chuckled. You like what you see. Rare flesh, my friend, came from a failed experiment, they say. Not good for anything but meat. Jox didn't answer. He looked at the girls. The silver one met his eyes and didn't look away. The purple-eyed one pulled her sister. Behind her, bearing small fangs. They were scared, but proud, alive. How much? Jox asked, his voice flat. 80 credits each. The vendor smiled. Discount if you buy both. 120. Jox's heart sank. He had only 50, but he looked again. The girls wouldn't last the day. Already a large alien with knives. 4 Fingers was eyeing them, licking his lips. Jock stepped forward, pulled a small bag from his coat. "These are all my credits," he said. "Take them and give me the cage." The vendor laughed. 50. "What am I? A charity." Jocks leaned in, whispered something. He showed a mark on his wrist. Something old and forbidden. The vendor's eyes widened. He went pale, then nodded quickly. "Fine, fine. Take them and go." Jocks opened the cage. The girls backed away, hissing. Softly, he didn't reach for them. He just said, "You can come with me, or stay here. They'll come for you soon." The silver-haired one looked at her sister. Then they stepped forward. Slowly, Jocks led them through the market. The crowd stared. Some whispered, "He just bought meat." Someone said, "Why waste credits on animals?" Said another. But Jocks didn't care. He walked faster. He could feel eyes following him. Enemies, watchers, people who knew what those girls really were. They reached his ship, a rusty old freighter named the Rustwing. He opened the hatch, motioned them inside. The cat girls hesitated, then entered. Jocks closed the door behind them. Inside, the ship was cold but safe. The girls curled up near the heater, silent. Jocks didn't speak. He sat in the cockpit, thinking, why had he done it? Why spend his last credits on two strangers? He didn't know, but deep inside, he felt something had changed. This wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something big. Suddenly, a beep echoed from the back of the ship. Jocks ran to the crate where the girl's cage had been placed. A small red light blinked. He grabbed it. It was a tracker. Someone had tagged them. And now they were being hunted. The ship, Rustwing, drifted silently through deep space. Its old engines hummed low, barely keeping the heat running inside the dim cabin. The two alien cat girls huddled together near a corner. They had not spoken a word since Jocks had brought them aboard. Jocks sat alone in the cockpit, watching them from a distance. His mind raced with questions. Who were they? Why were they being sold like meat? Why did he feel like something far greater was happening? He took a deep breath and stood up. Grabbing a ration pack, he walked slowly toward them. The girls tensed, their tails curling tightly. Their eyes locked on him sharp, wild, waiting for pain. He stopped a few steps away. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. He placed the food on the floor and stepped back. They didn't move at first. The younger one, with dark fur and purple eyes, glanced at her sister. The silver-haired one gave a small nod. Cautiously, they moved forward, sniffing the package like animals. Jocks watched, feeling a knot in his chest. They were more than pets, more than slaves. They were broken, trained to fear, to obey, to survive. "I'm Jocks," he said gently. "You have names." The silver-haired one raised her head slowly. Her voice was quiet, rough from silence. "Nari," she said, pointing to herself. Then she touched her sister's arm. "Lexa, nice to meet you." Jocks nodded. He smiled a little, though it felt strange on his face. Nari stared at him for a long time. "You paid for us," she said, voice low. "You own us now." Jocks shook his head. "No one owns anyone here," he replied. "You're free." Nari's ears twitched as if she didn't understand the word. Lexa tilted her head. "Free," she whispered. Her voice was softer, younger, afraid. "You can eat, rest, sleep," Jocks said. "No chains, no orders." Lexa looked confused. "Do we serve you?" "No," Jocks said firmly. "You don't serve me. You heal. You recover." They both stared at him, unsure. No one had ever said those words to them before. Hours passed. The girls ate quietly, sitting in the warm corner. Jocks returned to the cockpit. He checked the scanner again. The tracker had been destroyed, but he knew the signal was already out there. Whoever had tagged them was probably already on the hunt. Suddenly, the ship shook slightly, just turbulence, but enough to send Lexa running to Nari's side. She hissed softly, sharp claws showing. Jox heard it and stood up, but as he stepped closer, something strange happened. Lexa backed away, but Nari stepped between them. Not in fear, but in defense. Her eyes narrowed. "You're being watched," she said. "Not just by those who sold us." Jox blinked. "What do you mean?" "There are systems. Sensors," Nari explained slowly. "We were trained to feel them, to hear the hum of the signal." Jox nodded slowly. "You were trained for something," he said. "You're not just civilians." Lexa bit her lip, then whispered, "We were made to be weapons, but they failed." "Failed how?" "They wanted us quiet, obedient," Nari said, her voice cold now. "They trained us to fight, to kill, then tried to erase who we were, but we remembered." Jock sat down near them. "So, you escaped." Nari shook her head. "We were given away, traded like scraps." Jox clenched his fist. "They didn't see your value," he muttered. "They saw only a product." Lexa looked at him with curious eyes. "You are different," she said. "Most buyers are cruel." "I didn't buy you," Jox replied. "I saved you." Nari's gaze softened. "Just a little." "You will be hunted," she warned. "Anyone who shelters us is marked." "I figured as much." Jox sighed. "But I've got nothing to lose." He stood up. "I'll get the medkit," he said. "Let's fix those wounds." As he left, Lexa whispered to Nari, "Do you think he's telling the truth?" Nari looked after Jox, her eyes thoughtful, cautious, but no longer full of fear. "I don't know," she said, "but he didn't flinch when I told him what we were." A soft hum filled the ship. Lexa looked around. "What's that sound?" Nari froze. Her ears twitched, eyes wide. "That's not the ship," she said. "That's a scanner beam someone's locking on." Jox ran back in, holding a medkit. "Get ready," he said sharply. "We've got incoming." Outside, in the black void of space, a dark shadow moved. A sleek hunter ship with no name, no signal, no mercy. It was coming fast, and it was coming for them. Alarms flashed red inside the Rustwing. The radar screamed as a shadow moved closer from deep space. Jox slammed his hand on the control panel. "This isn't a pirate," he growled. "This is something worse." Nari stood behind him, eyes glowing faintly, her tail flicked nervously. Lexa sat in the corner, hugging her knees, trying to stay calm, but even she could feel the danger growing every second. "It's the Bounty Guild," Carrie said, voice cold. "They've come to take us back." Jox stared at her. "You're sure?" "They don't leave witnesses," she replied. "If they found us, they'll burn the whole ship." Jox didn't wait. He threw switches, pulled levers, and hit the ignition. The Rustwing shuddered to life, coughing out flames as the old engines kicked in. "She's not built for speed," he muttered, "but she'll fly." Outside, the hunter ship loomed larger. It had no lights, no markings, just cold black metal and death in its wake. For engines roared, closing in, "Fast brace yourselves." Jox shouted. The Rustwing twisted hard, breaking orbit and diving into a nearby asteroid belt. Chunks of rock spun wildly through space. It was the worst place to fly, but the only chance they had. Inside the cockpit, Nari jumped into the co-pilot seat. She didn't ask for permission. Her fingers danced over controls like she was born for it. "Diverting power to shields," she said. "Cutting waste from backup systems." Jox blinked. "You've flown before." "No," she replied, "but I was designed for war." Lexa slid into the weapons chair behind them. The little girl who once cowered was gone. Now her eyes locked on targeting screens, claws tapping the console. "I'll try to blind there." "Scanners," she said. "I've done it before." Rocks slammed against the ship's hull as they weaved through the belt. The hunter ship followed, calm and silent. It fired once a blue beam that sliced an asteroid in two. Jox cursed. That, things faster and stronger, but not smarter, Nari said with a smirk. Turn left on my mark. 3, 2, now? Jocks jerked the controls. The Rustwing dove under a spinning boulder. Looped around a narrow canyon. The hunter ship followed, but just slightly too wide. It scraped against the rock, losing speed. Lexa laughed. They're angry now. Good. Jock said. Let them chase. The ship shook again, a near hit. Another laser beam missed them by inches. Warning lights flashed. Heat rising fast. We need an exit, Jock said. We can't stay in here forever. There's a mining tunnel on the other side, Nari said. Old, abandoned, but still open. How do you know that? I remember things they taught us, she said. Things we weren't supposed to keep. Jocks nodded. Lead the way. They blasted forward, weaving through tighter gaps. The engine screamed, metal groaned. But the Rustwing held together. Ahead, a small black hole in a massive rock, appeared the tunnel. Jocks didn't hesitate. They shot into the darkness, leaving the hunter behind. Inside the tunnel, everything went silent. The walls were tight, narrow, and sharp, but there were no sensors here, no trackers, no signals. Kill the engine, Nari said. Let us drift. Jocks did as she said. The hum stopped, and for a moment, the ship floated peacefully in the dark. No sounds, no lights, only heavy breaths and beating hearts. Lexa looked up. Did we make it? Jocks exhaled slowly, for now, but Nari wasn't relaxed. They'll be back, she said. They never give up. Jocks turned to her. You said they want you back? Why? What are you really? Nari looked away, her eyes distant. We were part of Project Nyx, she said, a secret program to build perfect weapons, human weapons. No, she replied. We were made from many species, feline DNA, psychic cores. Battle instincts, not born, not raised, just built in a lab. Lexa spoke softly. But we learned to feel, to dream, to want more. They called that a failure, Nari said bitterly. So they sold us. Jocks felt a fire in his chest. It wasn't just anger, it was purpose. These people. This guild, he said. They think they own life. Yes, Nari nodded. And they fear what they can't control. Jocks stood up. Then we don't run anymore. He said, we hit first. Lexa blinked. You want to fight them. There. Hunting you, Jocks said. They made you. But now, you're free. He looked at Nari. You said you were designed for war. Then let's make them regret ever building you. In the darkness of the tunnel, the three of them stood. Together, one human scavenger. Two alien cat girls once sold as meat, now bound by something stronger than blood choice. The guild would return, but next time, the prey would be ready. Asterisk, the Rustwing floated inside the dead tunnel of an old mining asteroid. There was no light. No sound, just silence thick enough to choke. Jock sat in the pilot seat. Staring at the cracked screen, outside, jagged rocks hung like frozen teeth. Waiting to crush anything foolish enough to move, Nari stood beside him, arms crossed. Eyes glowing in the dark, Lexa slept in the corner, curled up in a blanket like a tired cat. But even in sleep, her ears twitched, always listening, always ready. Jocks whispered, we can't hide here forever. No, Nari replied, but we needed time to think. Jocks leaned back. They called you Project Nyx, he said. What does that mean? Nari didn't answer right away. She touched the back of her neck, as if feeling something buried under her skin. There was a signal, she said slowly. A core. Hidden deep in space. It's the key to our full power. Power. We're limited, Nari continued. Made strong but not whole. The core holds what was taken from us. Jocks frowned. Taken by who? She looked at him. The ones who built us. They feared what we might become. A soft beep echoed through the cabin. Jox jumped, hand reaching for his blaster. But it wasn't an attack, just a message. It came from an old contact, Milo. Vrek, a smuggler and fixer who owed Jox more than a few favors. Jox tapped the screen. A blurry hologram appeared, showing Milo's scarred face and nervous eyes. Jox, Milo's voice crackled. You stirred up a real storm. The guild is everywhere. Put a bounty on your head, dead or alive. Jox raised an eyebrow. That's not surprising, but listen, Milo whispered, leaning close to the camera. You've got something they want real bad. I don't know what it is, but they're scared. He paused, then lowered his voice. There's talk of something called the core signal. Some ancient tech locked in a hidden vault. Rumor says it's connected to Project Nyx. Whatever you've got, it's the key to it. The message ended. Jox looked at Nari. Her face was unreadable, but her tail was tense. So it's real, Jox said. This core signal, it exists. Yes, Nari nodded. And if we reach it, we become more than weapons. Lexa stirred in the corner, rubbing her eyes. I had dreams, she said softly, of stars turning red, of voices in my head. They called us leaders. Jox felt the weight of her words. He stood up, pulling up the galaxy map. Where is it? Nari pointed to a blinking system, far from trade routes, deep in the unclaimed zone. Here, she said. The planet is called Eleron Prime. Jox shook his head. That place is cursed, he said. No ship that enters ever comes out. That's the point, Nari said. They built it to keep us away. Silence filled the ship again. Jox looked at the girls, two beings who were meant to be silent tools, chasing their stolen destiny. He nodded slowly. Then we go. They powered up the ship. Engines roared as the Rustwing escaped the tunnel, back into cold space, dangerous. Open, full of death, but also full of answers. Hours passed, then days, along the way. They stopped at a hidden outpost on a desert moon. Milo met them in a shadowy bar made of scrap metal and smoke. He was older now, eyes always scanning, hands twitching like a man ready to run. You shouldn't be here, Milo hissed. You're walking corpses. We need information, Jox said. About the core signal, Milo looked at Nari and Lexa. He swallowed hard. They said you were myths, he whispered. Ghost soldiers who vanished. Nara's eyes locked on his. We're not myths, she said. We're the future they tried to erase. Milo nodded slowly. There's a vault on Eleron Prime, he said, guarded by machines older than most. Planets, you'll need a key. What kind of key? Jox asked. Milo pulled out a small crystal drive. I got this from a dead collector, he said. He claimed it was made by the same people who created the project. Jox reached for it. Milo hesitated. If I give you this, I'm marked. 2, he said. The guild will hunt me next. Jox held out his hand. I saved your life once, he said. Now let me end this war. Milo sighed and handed it over. Just promise me one thing, he said. When you unlock whatever's in that vault, don't let it control you. Back on the ship, Nari stared at the crystal. It feels familiar, she whispered. Lexa placed her hand beside hers. It feels like. Coming home, Jox set course for Eleron Prime. The engines screamed as they jumped into hyperspace behind them. Warning signals blinked. Guild ships detected, but they didn't care anymore. This wasn't just survival, it was revolution, and the weapon they needed wasn't a gun or a bomb. It was truth, and it was waiting in the shadows of a forgotten world. The core pulsed like a living heart, one by one. The glass pods hissed open. Steam curled through the air as the catgirls inside began to move. They were like Nari and Lexo fur-covered ears. Glowing eyes, long tails, but some were taller, stronger. Battle-scarred, others were small, thin, their eyes blinking in confusion. They had been asleep for years, forgotten, abandoned, sealed away by the same people who built them. Now they were awake, and they were not afraid. The guild soldiers froze. As dozens of glowing eyes turned toward them, weapons in their hands suddenly felt too small. Their training meant nothing against what was rising before them. Jox looked around, his body bruised and burned. He smiled, breathing hard. We're not alone anymore. Lexa stood beside him. Claws bloodied, armor cracked. Her smile was sharp, wild. This is what they feared, she said. This is why they hunted us. Nari's voice echoed through the chamber. Brothers, sisters, rise. You are not tools. You are not animals. You are free. The core responded to her words. Its light grew brighter, flooding the room with warmth. The air felt heavy with power. A new signal burst from the tower, broadcasting across the stars. It was a message not of war, but of truth. We live, the signal said. We remember. We will never be owned again. The soldiers panicked. Some tried to flee. Others fired wildly. But the catgirls moved like a wave. Not angry, but focused, precise, fast, unstoppable. Jox pulled Lexa behind cover. They've got this now, he said. She nodded, eyes wide as she watched her sisters fight with grace and fury. We were never meant to fight alone. She whispered. The guild commander barked orders. Fall back. He shouted, retreat. But the exits were blocked. The very planet seemed to work against them. Doors closed, paths collapsed, energy walls rose. Nari floated above the core, surrounded by golden light, her voice calm but strong. You came to destroy us, she said. You failed. One final pulse knocked every last soldier unconscious. The chamber fell silent. Only the hum of the core remained. Nari floated down gently. Her feet touching the floor, her body swayed. Exhausted, Jox ran to her, catching her before she fell. You did it, he said. Nari looked up at him. We did it, she replied. You gave us a choice, all around them. The freed catgirls began to help each other. Wounded were lifted, children comforted. It wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a family reunion. Lexa walked among them, smiling, crying, laughing. She had never known others like her. Now she had dozens of sisters. Later, Jox sat on a platform outside the core tower. The stars above were clearer than ever. Nari joined him, wearing a cloak of silver cloth given by the others. What now? He asked. We rebuild, she said. We find more like us. Across the galaxy, we speak with one voice. Jox raised an eyebrow. You sure the galaxy's ready for that? Nari smiled. No, she said, but we are. Lexa joined them. Carrying 3 metal cups of hot stew, she sat down between them, tail swaying. We should get a better ship, she said. The Rustwing is falling apart. Jox chuckled. She's old, but she got us here. We'll name the next one after her. Nari said. A ship for a new era. They sat in silence, watching as the freed catgirls began building shelters using parts of the old lab. They worked together. No leaders, no orders, only unity. Suddenly, a small ship appeared in orbit. It didn't belong to the guild. It was a news vessel attracted by the core's broadcast. Lexa narrowed her eyes. Now the galaxy's watching. Koi stood tall. Good, she said. Let them see us. Jox turned to her. You're going to change everything, aren't you? Nari looked at the stars. No, she replied. We already did, far away in a hidden guild base. Shadowy figures watched the broadcast in silence. One of them stood, slamming a fist on the table. She has the core, he growled. She has the army, another voice whispered. And she has him, the human. A cold silence followed. Then a final command was given. Prepare Phase 2. Back on Eleron Prime, The sky above the core turned golden as more signals lit up. Across the galaxy, other projects, other survivors waking, responding, rising. The revolution had begun, and this time Mint wasn't just about freedom. It was about becoming more.